Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Candice Thomas, and I'm the founder of the Evergreen Wellness Studio here in Barrie and the leader of the Flora's Walk here in Barrie. And today I have the honor of speaking with Flora's sister, Mimi. And I'd love for you to introduce yourself and just say hi to everybody.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Candice, for speaking to me. It's honestly such an honor. I live far away, and I have two little ones, so I'm very limited in my participation at the moment. Hopefully that will change. But I see what you're doing, Candice. And like I was saying before, like just the energy you have is incredible. Um, and all of the walk leaders, like honestly,
Amazing.
I feel like I would be front and center if I could, trust me. But just the fact that everybody's doing this in Flora's name is I can't even express the feeling. It's yeah, it's insane. So thank you, Candace, and thank you all of the walk leaders.
Well, thank you. I mean, you initially shared this story with my friend Patricia Tomasi, and from there it grew because I think her story touched so many people. And I think at that time it was like we need action. We can't keep going like this. And I think all the advocacy, it started in Barrie and now it's in 50 cities across Canada and growing. So it's amazing. But I wanted to really connect with you because all of us know Flora's story in a different way than you know. You knew her whole life, and I think it's so important that we learn more about who she was and not necessarily just the end. And I think, can you tell me about Flora and what she was like?
Yeah, of course. First, I just want to apologize if I cry or there are tears because there might be, but I'm I'm gonna
Same.
try to to talk and get it out. Yeah, it's such a crazy thing actually to think about that everybody knows, well, I mean not everybody, but that she's kind of known for this in Flora's Walk now. So yeah, I really appreciate, just even the question. She, so she's my older sister. She's 9 years older than me. So she
Wow.
was always, as you can imagine, kind of like a second parental figure. Always babysitting duties like my entire life. Helping me with homework every single night my entire life from, when I first started going to school up until finishing high school, trying to figure out what I was going to do for the rest of my life. She's a very, she was a very type A personality. Spreadsheets, organization, obsessed with stationery.
Oh gosh.
Um, yeah.
Oh wow.
I'm Yeah, I'm not really the opposite, but I feel like I was kind of the opposite my whole life, and I feel like Flora always put me on track, you know, um,
You were the
with
free
certain things.
spirit.
Yeah, I was more of
Yeah.
a free spirit. Like I like my organization now, but I think like I'm older and that's just how life gets. You need to be organized. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, she was a spreadsheet. I think I got her a mug one year that said like spreadsheet freak or something. I don't know. Um, but yeah,
That's such a
she
little
was,
sister thing to do.
yeah. She was a financial controller, so she got her chartered accountancy, and was a financial controller. So she was extremely smart, extremely good at her job, and yeah, just hyper organized, like to the point where even if I was going on a vacation, like without her, like, with me and my partner or whatever, she would literally spend days and then send me an itinerary and a map of like all the things that I should do or could do or the options. Like, Very, very, very type A.
Oh my gosh. So she
Yeah,
was a
so
good big sister. She really took care
yeah.
of you.
Yeah, she took care of me. She was a big sister, yeah. Um, so that's kind of like from my perspective, she was very like she always described herself as bubbly. So that's like if you asked her to describe herself in one word, she would say bubbly. She was very vivacious, like just, well, I mean, that's what I guess what, bubbly really means, but she was just so full of life. Um, and the best way I can describe her really is if there was 100 people in a room and then suddenly Flora walked in, Flora would be like the only person in the room. She just the aura she would take over. So she talked a lot. She was very, very talkative. Um, if I saw her phoning me, I would know that it would be like a minimum of 4 hours. Like
Oh,
I'm not even exaggerating. Like a 2 hour conversation would probably be cutting it short for her. Like she talked a lot. So yeah, she was just
I
really
love
full
that.
of life and she was really very much a go-getter. I think she would describe herself that way as well, where she just focused and she had the mentality of like, if you want something, there's nothing to stop you. You can do it.
Wow.
So
She's
yeah,
very
and that's
driven.
yeah, very, very driven. No matter what, like I could come to her with like the weirdest, most obscure problem. And she'd be like, "There's a way. Like let's figure this out." Um, so yeah, and it's why because I think you and Patricia were talking about this as well that I was telling Patricia before that Flora would really be one of the leaders, because that
Yeah.
is like as I've described her personality.
She would have been right in there.
Yeah, and that's why that was like exactly her personality. If there was any projects happening, like she had this street project once. It was it's hard to explain, but it was like on her street they had this party, but it was like political leaders and stuff came as well. Like it was really crazy. Um but she ended up leading that. So anything like any project that comes like anywhere in her vicinity, she would lead. So she would just grab it and lead it and get her spreadsheets out and, get all the meetings and
Oh my
um
gosh. Wow. She was a true leader.
yeah.
And it sounds like she
Yeah.
led with heart and a lot of passion. I think that's so beautiful.
Yeah, um she was very emotional. So when you say like led with her heart, like she was very emotional. So I think like her heart came first. Even though she's type A and organized and all this stuff, like her heart came first and like feelings came first.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So
Yeah. So that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. I've learned so much about Flora already, and I love that we had discussed before that you said, oh, she'd be right in the middle of things. She'd be right there, front row. She'd be rallying everybody up. So she was quite the change maker. And I think it's
yeah,
beautiful
absolutely.
that her name continues, and it's just the impact she continues to make is very, very real.
Yeah, and I think like it's crazy because how this happened with Patricia starting it and everything. At the time, it started this is the fifth walk now. So when Patricia approached me with it was like, it had just happened. I was in survival mode with two babies, etc., trying to figure out all the legalities of everything. Um, but now like the fog is starting to lift because the girls are a bit older and
Mhm.
I'm kind of like clawing out of survival mode a little bit and I just think like what are the chances that this happened and this is in her name and yeah, it's just crazy to me that it all kind of came together, you know?
Yes, it really did.
Yeah.
And we're so grateful that you shared because without you sharing this story, we wouldn't know. And I think it's made a huge impact. So thank you for sharing her story with all of us.
Thank you. I
It's,
think it's not an easy thing because I think, there's a lot of like family privacy and that kind of stuff happening. I think the more that the more awareness that we bring to it, I feel like, that's obviously the impact. But since this has happened 4.5 years ago, I meet more and more people who have struggled and who just who don't say anything. And it's not anybody's, if people don't want to say anything, that's absolutely fine. Um, but it is hard to say, even though I wasn't the one who went through it. Obviously I went through my own pregnancy and, baby journey, but yeah, I can see why people are closed off and don't want to say anything, the
mm-hmm.
stigma attached to it, the
Yes.
drama, the family drama attached to it, the shame, the
Mm-hmm.
guilt for, being a mom and then experiencing these things. Um, so yeah, so it's not easy to share. It wasn't easy to share from the beginning, but I knew like when Patricia called, I knew Flora would have wanted that, and that's what kind of went through my head was, would Flora be okay with this? Is this okay? Well, two things. Is this okay for us and our family? And would Flora be okay with this? And like, I just got a resounding yes, like, Flora would want this. So, but I
Yes.
understand how hard it is to share. So,
Yes. And
yeah.
then not only that, we talk about it every year. So it's not something it's something that you're seeing every year all the time and reliving this. So that's got to be hard too.
Yeah, I think it's a roller coaster, like it's up and down, and it's also a roller coaster in the sense of like, wow, this is so incredible what's happening, this awareness and people coming together. Um, and then also it comes with, the sadness of it all. So it's like you kind of get both waves of everything. And yeah, I think every year is different, and
Mhm.
I think the biggest thing for me is I'm so happy that Flora's name is out there and alive and yeah, making an impact. So, yeah.
I thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing that. Um, she sounded like just an incredible human being to full of life, full of heart, and just loving everyone around her. What was she like when she became a mom? I know that you had mentioned that she very much wanted to become a mom and she was excited about this next chapter. How was she like in those moments?
So so she was 43, and she had her baby via sperm donor. So the reason she did that was because she had so many failed relationships up until that point. And she really wanted to be a mom. She really wanted a baby, um, and essentially a family. But obviously, she was getting older, and so she had been through, I think it was like 5 years, 4 years, 5 years of failed IVF cycles.
Oh,
And then she was successful in getting pregnant at 43. Um, Found out on her 43rd birthday, actually.
oh, wow.
So yeah, I called her to say happy birthday, and she's like, I just took a pregnancy test this morning. And it's
What a phone
positive.
call.
Yeah. But I was no, I was not pregnant yet. I got pregnant a few months later, but um I live in the UK and Flora was in Canada and it was during COVID. So,
Yes.
well, sort of like at the back end of COVID, but there was
Yes.
still like rules in Canada like isolating and
Hmm.
all that kind of stuff. So she was with my mom. Her and my mom were living in a one bedroom apartment and she was pregnant and she didn't have a partner. So she had my mom, but she didn't have a partner. And so at first there was a lot of excitement and then it just very quickly turned into pure anxiety. Um which I understand because I had the worst anxiety ever when I was pregnant. I suffered from anxiety before getting pregnant, and then when I was pregnant, it just went off the roof. Like I went to so many baby scans because I was just constantly worried something was happening. And Flora was also a high risk pregnancy on multiple
Hmm.
accounts. Same as me, actually. It's really weird how like we had a similar journey. But Flora was high risk, so she had gestational diabetes. She was also 43. Um, so she was constantly being checked. Plus, she had anxiety, so she was getting extra scans on top of it. Plus, she was alone slash with my mom, so she didn't have the support of a partner, and she was also pretty much isolating. She was
Yeah.
working, she was working at the time. I can't remember when she took maternity because she took maternity quite early, but she was working for a bit and things got really terrible at work, I remember. So that really like put her down as well. So it was like all these sort of layers.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and yeah, it was quite difficult being me being in the UK and her being there because it was hard to get a gauge of how she was kind of feeling, but I knew she was very emotional, which I just thought, well, what pregnant woman isn't emotional?
Yes.
Um, and I knew that she had really bad anxiety. So, yeah, I don't know if she enjoyed her pregnancy. I think she's really, really struggled with it. And then, once she gave birth, she had just terrible health issues. So she had edema. I don't know if you know what edema
Yeah.
is. It's when your the fluid retention. Um, yeah, and it was to the point where it was like painful, and she had to go to the hospital to get it treated after, I think it was like a week or two after Amber was born. Um, and so she spent 2 weeks in the hospital away from Amber.
Hmm.
Um, so that was really, really difficult. She was away from her baby.
Yes.
She was had all of the hormones. She didn't have a partner. It was still post-COVID. So yeah, that's when things sort of really started to um take a turn. And like again, I'm in the UK, so it was really hard to gauge exactly how she was feeling, but um she didn't really it felt like she didn't really connect with Amber and it felt like she was very lonely and very um just like sad and
Yeah, that's a lot. That's
yeah,
that's so much. And it
yeah,
sounds like she had so many things, even just leading up to that. And
yeah,
then being apart from your newborn for two
yeah.
weeks, that's just devastating. And do you know in term like that time was so chaotic because of the pandemic and the post-pandemic and the rules and things, but did she have a hard time finding care in those early days? Do you remember what her journey was like? Like, I think sometimes, well, we know that getting access to care in those early days is so important. Did you notice if she had any issues accessing care?
So I don't remember her. I I just remember how she was feeling, and I was so naive on the postpartum period, um, which is why I think it's so important that we're raising awareness in all of this. But I was really naive, so I've seen Flora, fluctuate throughout her life with depression and anxiety and moods and all that. So I didn't really understand how different this was. And I remember speaking to her about it, but I honestly can't remember what care I know for sure she was not asking for any care. Um, and I believe that there wasn't anything offered to her either.
Mhm.
Um, I remember being on the phone with her while she was in the hospital. No, this was, yeah, I remember now. It was 3 days after she gave birth. So the first day she gave birth, I had a video call with her and she was on cloud nine, like totally happy. And she was like, oh, hopefully I'll meet like a hunky dude at some point. But, like she was so happy. She was so, so happy. And I just thought, oh my God, everything's great. And then couldn't get a hold of her for 3 days, like messaging. I remember like I called my mom and my mom was like, "Oh no, she's just in the hospital with Amber. Everything's fine." Um, but I couldn't get a hold of her and then Flora messaged me and was like, "Sorry." She's like, "I have not spoken to anybody or responded to anybody over the last 3 days." Um, and then I called her and she was very upset. Like it was complete contrast to the day that Amber was born. She was angry, she was upset. She was like screaming at the nurses for like something about the medication. And I was like, "Oh my God, what is I felt really flustered. I was like, "What is happening?" Um,
Hmm.
and I know that there wasn't anybody um I guess noticing the symptoms and noticing what she was like and offering her help. But I don't know her exact like journey with that. I know that she wasn't actively looking for help. But I feel like most people don't. I feel like when you're in it, you don't, yeah,
That's the thing, right? Like when you're in it, and on top of that, there's a huge stigma about it, right? If I say something, does that mean I'm a bad mom? And there's this whole idea that aren't we supposed to just be the happiest and love our baby? And there's this instant connection. I think there's some really unattainable expectations for moms early on. But I also believe that there are gaps in the system in terms of, well, we know this, that even if they are being screened, what for postpartum depression, anxiety, any perinatal mood disorders, what happens after that? So they're screened and then they take this new baby home, and then what? I feel like the first time I read Flora's story, I'm like, I felt awful because I felt like they didn't see her, you know, and they could have like the contrast between who you're describing and who that was 3 days later is two very different people. And
Yeah, and I think the nurses didn't know, the nurses
mhm,
probably obviously didn't know her that well. So they might have just been thinking, oh, well, I have some lady being angry and screaming at me, not
yeah,
knowing that
yes,
that's not what she was like.
yes,
So I always thought that in my head, like sometimes our people are just horrible, right? And I'm sure the nurses have to deal with a lot of that. But if someone's given birth 3 days ago, I just think there should be a higher like radar on that. Yeah.
yes, yeah. And then so she was home, but then she had to go back. She was in the
Yeah, so
hospital
she
for
did
two
go
weeks.
home. Yeah, she
And
did go
then
home, and then her edema got really bad, and then she had to go to the hospital. So,
did they notice anything when she went back? Because
no,
she's,
no, not. I think I think when she went back, like, because you're out, she was, because it was edema related, it
Mhm,
wasn't like they didn't care that it had anything to do with birth or pregnancy. So they
mhm,
were treating the edema and
mhm,
focusing on that.
mhm,
Um, yeah.
mhm. Yes, that's so then she's home and or did she contact you then? How did she feel when she was actually home?
I think from my side, because obviously I can't speak on her behalf and say how she felt. But from my side and how I saw it was, I don't have any other nieces and nephews. That this was my first niece, and I was pregnant. I was very heavily pregnant at the time, and I was away from her, so I was like, um, desperate to see pictures and know everything that was going on and stuff. But she was very, like I had to constantly ask her for photos. Um, and it was in the winter time in Toronto, which, can
It's
be if you
dark
just had
and
a
cold.
baby and yeah, and it's December and like, I mean, you really have to pull yourself out to go and
Yeah.
bundle everybody up and go for a walk with the baby. So, and she had, been in the hospital suffering from edema, so she had trouble like walking at certain points. So like, yeah, I don't know. Every time I spoke to her, it was more like she was asking me about me and my pregnancy and coming up with, she was still like kind of more who she was before um pregnancy. It's like it felt like to me she didn't make the shift in her mind that she has a baby now, if that if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Like she was on the phone, like from what my mom says, she was on the phone, like doing people's taxes for hours and stuff. And I'm like, you've just had a baby? Like, I don't know. It was
Yeah.
really strange. Um, yeah, I think every time I spoke to her, it was like it was barely anything about Amber.
Mm.
Um, which, after because she had Amber in November and I had my daughter Athena in April. And when Athena was born, oh my God, nobody could, like, all I would talk about was Athena. I would send everybody like hundreds of photos of Athena. Um, like, you couldn't get me not to talk about Athena. So now I look back after being a brand new mother myself, and I look back at Flora's journey and I'm like, how was she not, like, how was she so disconnected?
Mhm.
Um, but now obviously I know how much she struggled and
Yes.
um why she was
Yes.
disconnected. And yeah, I mean, looking in retrospect, I wish I knew more at the time, but
But
yeah.
you, I know reading the story that you and your family did advocate for her, especially
Yeah.
when things started to take a turn and you tried to get help for her. Did you find that that piece was difficult and was it hard to connect her with the care that she needed or seeing a doctor or seeing anyone for help?
So, because I'm in the UK, it was my mom and my sister's best friends who were doing all of that. Um, so I can't really answer what the journey was like. But it all happened really quickly, to be honest.
Mm,
Like, yes, there was um the disconnect with the baby and her anxiety and her being angry and all that stuff. But the psychosis part all happened very quickly. Um, and the second that we noticed that, um, it was like within 5, 6 days, that's when it happened. So, um, I know that my mom and sister's friends got her an appointment. Um, but I don't know. It would have been like within a week, but I can't say exactly like what they
Mhm.
went through and what they had to do. And I'm not even sure what I know they got her an appointment. But I don't know if it was with her existing doctor or who it was with.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Mhm. That must have been so hard being so far away from her, and you guys are so close, and then seeing the change, time, the different times you would speak with her. I can't imagine, especially how you speak about her being on the phone with you for 2 to 4 hours minimum, and then to go to not connecting with her as much. And then when you do, it doesn't seem like the same person, or it's up and down. And I could only imagine everyone trying to support her and figuring out where to go and what to do. But it is, I find that the psychosis piece, because it's rare, I find, just from even talking to Patricia about the 2 times it happened to her, it was almost like you immediately cannot control what's happening to you. You're just in it. And then the people around you are trying to pick up the pieces and figure out what to do. So being that far away from her, I could only imagine it was difficult to not be able to be there and support her in that way. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm, hmm. It's frustrating because I feel like there's gaps in our system, and moms even today are falling through the care system, and that that being screened and being followed and early access to care, because postpartum psychosis is treatable when detected, and I don't know, it just it makes me sad to think that she didn't get help.
Yeah.
Like, I wish someone saw her, and like heard her, um
You have to think
especially.
as well because my sister thought that my mom and her friends and me were all conspiring against her. And we had this big plan to do God knows what. I have no idea. Um, but she thought that we were all conspiring against her. So there was one point, and I can't remember because everything is like kind of fuzzy from that time, but there was one point where my mom had her in the car with Amber. So it was the three of them in the car, and they were on the way to an appointment um, related to her mental health. I don't really remember what, but Flora suddenly grabbed Amber, like the car seat thing, and just pulled out and was like, "Yeah, I'm not going because you guys are like conspiring against me," and then just took Amber and went back inside the house. So it's such a tricky thing because you have the person who needs the help, um, also not wanting it. So it's almost like you really need all hands on deck to get this person who's going through psychosis, thinking all of these things that aren't real, basically, is the best way to describe it. To get help. It's like,
It's
yeah,
hard. It's so
yeah.
hard. Oh man. Thank you for sharing that. I know that you guys did everything you could do, right? What and I it's just I don't know, it makes me sad to think about it. And I'm also a sister. My sister is 9 years younger than me. And
Oh,
I feel like yeah, I feel like that's just a special bond and you want to do everything you can for your sibling, right? And show up for them, especially when you know there's such a big light in the world. Thank you for
yeah.
sharing that. And I know, I know reading your story after all of that, um, you adopted Amber.
Yeah, so it was a long legal journey, but yeah, my husband and I ended up adopting Amber, and she was 2 months old at the time. Um, and yeah, you go through so many emotions. Amber's 4 now. She's 4.5.
Wow.
So she's like Amber is a, like, even if you met her for 5 seconds, you would see she's a firecracker. Like, she is explosive. She is nuts. She is like hilarious. She just makes everything a joke. She is absolutely bonkers. Um,
He's so full of life.
so full of life, yeah. And I think, like, obviously Amber was just a 2-month-old baby at the time, and the personality starts to show after a few months, and then even more so after a year. And yeah, it's just, Flora has never seen that part of Amber, and I just think there's so much of Flora in Amber that, like, yeah,
That's
it's so
beautiful.
sad. Yeah. I think that, Amber's kind of at the age